Hi, everyone. I am Carrie Little. I am your host of Coffee with Carrie, typically every Friday on Instagram at 9 a.m. Most of you also know me as the designated managing broker owner of Caremark Realty Group here in the western suburbs of Illinois. But today I want to talk to you, or I really want to introduce, I'm going to say, my new friend, Brandee Harrington. She is from Mississippi, but I want to kind of give you some insight. So she and I met because Makita Smith, Savvy Chicks in Real Estate, licensed and unbothered conference that we just came from. She, a few weeks ago, maybe I think it was sometime in May, went live with you about your a journal. But we're going to get into this journal in a moment. I'm going to pull it out of my box in a moment. So she went live, and I thought, you know what? My mother and I were just talking about leaving a legacy, and I think I need this. But before we get started, I want Brandee to introduce herself because she's already doing some great things in real estate. All of you that, you think you've done the surface of the iceberg. I think she's below the surface, and she's doing what all of us wish we were doing. So introduce yourself, tell us how long you've been in real estate, and tell us some of the things you're working on.
Well, thank you so much, Carrie. So, hey everyone, I am Brandee Harrington. I am in Jackson, Mississippi. I am the broker owner for J. Daniel Realty, and I have been doing real estate for now going on about 12 years. And now that I am my own managing broker, it is a lot different. I will say that, but what I've learned throughout this process is that, like you mentioned earlier, Makita Smith was instrumental in putting us together, but she helped me to think outside of just having one stream of income and just being a agent. And so, being that model and that mantra from her, I really started really tapping into other resources and things that I could do with my real estate license in order to be successful. And so there's several things that I've done since then. I have now just recently acquired 45 acres of land that I will be doing some things with later on here shortly, but as well as just doing a number of things such as internationally buying real estate, using Airbnb as a source of income that way, as well as just being able to now be an author as well. So that's just some of the things that I'm doing, even though not being being a real estate agent, you don't have to be an author, but I'm looking to do other things outside of just being an agent.
I mean, and you kind of brushed over 45 acres. You kind of brushed over 45 acres. And I've been in this year, July 1st will be 21 years for me. And first of all, we got to meet in person. And I was just excited about the book. I was excited about the way it looked. I was going to put my t-shirt on today, but I have to run out. But I was excited about the journal. But when I kind of got to meet you in person, and then you were on stage with a powerful panel of women, and you said you just acquired 45 acres. And I was like, most real estate agents, we get into the business, we at least want to do one deal a month. We want to be available for family. So we get into real estate not realizing it's real work. You got to put in the work. But when you said you bought 45 acres, you are, and one day I'll introduce you, if you don't already know, Karen Hatcher. She's the president of the Atlanta Association, and she and her husband do development in Atlanta. But when you said 45 acres, all I thought about was Karen told me, Carrie, if you're a real estate agent, you need to create the inventory.
Yeah.
You're going to be creating the inventory. So it is bigger than just I work with buyers and sellers, although life of a real estate agent, just go live on social media because you already have a challenge you're dealing with someone else that's buying a lot of acres. We're not just busy doing the business. You are creating inventory. So you are the person that's out here changing lives for yourself and for your clients. And so and we'll come back and talk about once you break ground and you do some of those things. So we'll interview you later. We don't want to give away everything.
Yes. But let me also say this. I do have 45 acres, and to Makita's point, I just do the work. But I had already acquired 10 extra acres somewhere else in a different town, and so that'll be the start. So we definitely will get back and we'll talk about, like you said, the inventory, and that's where my mind is shifting into a new reality of like you said, create the inventory. We just don't want to be just agents, but we have to change the narrative in order to do so.
So talking about changing the narrative, tell us your story about why, creating, multiple streams of income is great, because eventually I always say I need to pull people along. I'm 51 and I know I can't do this forever, but I want to leave a legacy for real estate agents and I want them to continue the journey. But as a mom and as a daughter, you kind of struck a chord when you started talking about why you created, and this book is just like absolutely fabulous, why you created the COINZ Legacy Keeper. So tell the story and then let's talk about this journal.
Okay. So the story behind the COINZ Legacy Keeper was birthed out of really a personal situation. And I'll be quite honest, I didn't think it was supposed to be something that I was going to create for everyone. You see, I found myself in a situation where, we, again, going through life, we're real estate agents, we're doing what we're doing, we help so many other people. And then I found myself in a situation where I literally was in the hospital with my mother, and I am now faced with answers and questions from her like, what is this? Where is this? And I didn't have the answers. I didn't know what to do for her, because guess what? We never sit down and actually have this conversation. We never think that, oh, one day somebody's needing to know where my will is, where my policy is, how to access this. She's in the hospital. She's nothing. She's not deceased, but yet I am now the caretaker for her, and yet we never had this conversation. And so what was literally pinned in the hospital room, showing to her like, listen, this is something that we're going to start talking about now that is hitting me in my face. This is how the Legacy Keeper was birthed and born out of.
And so, and I don't know, you might have to adjust your mic a little bit because I'm getting some feedback. But while you're doing that, I figured, so what was interesting is my mom came here. She came here for the great grandbaby's birthday party, although it was my twin and our birthday was happening. But I was watching her in my kitchen, and she was first of all, we all grew up in Illinois. My mother's in another state while she's in the District of Columbia. And she was on the phone with her attorney, and she's talking about, moving things. I'm like, is something wrong? And she was like, no, nothing's wrong. I just need to basically get my house in order.
Right.
And so what was interesting is we all think we have another day, right? But we're all appointed once to death. And if you don't plan, you're going to wish you had planned, or you're going to wish there's nothing like, not being able to have access to everybody's information. And I haven't started writing in this intentionally because I wanted to hold it up because I was like, oh, if I start showing my passwords and all kinds of stuff, everybody's going to see it. But you tell your story in the COINZ Legacy Keeper. And by the time we get done with this, you're probably going to have one for real estate. You're probably going to, the book, you're going to have more pockets. But it made me realize, because Mark and I, we walk in the mornings. But what was interesting was when I was going through this, because I'm, and first of all, for those of you, I put the link to her journal here. If you don't do anything else, you should buy this for your parents. Yes. In addition to the fact that you should buy it for yourself. So you really should be buying 2 or maybe even 3 if you have kids over the age of 20. Because if anything happens, no one has access to, number one, your bank accounts. They don't know login and passwords. Most of us, you don't even know your bankers. People don't know who the kids are. And what was interesting is I have to go to a bank here in Illinois because I'm the second or third person that has access to a safety deposit box. Okay. Like, we need to have all of this in order. So when I was in here and it says, look here, and it's, when you wrote in helping you journal this information, now is a good time to help your loved ones not play the let's go on a scavenger hunt game of finding important documents. So please list where they should look for keys, documents, titles. And this may be apparent, but it might not be. Like, it's like, exactly. You don't realize, like, we're going on a scavenger hunt. I mean, first of all, when my grandmother died years ago, she did have pretty much everything in order, but she had a filing cabinet and a flip phone. So, it wasn't in her phone. But I remember going through her filing cabinet and we could find everything. But many people don't even have that. But just the concept of, I was like, oh, maiden name, aliases. Like, social security numbers, date of birth, where you were born, because these are ways you're probably getting into passwords. So talk about some of the things that we should be doing and why this is important.
So to your point, a couple things happens when you are in an emergency situation where you are needing to find this information. Let's just be honest. We forget. We just forget. And it's like, I should know this answer, but guess what? Because it's the fight or flight method, your brain is literally trying to figure out what's going on, what's my next step. And the simple things that you used to know and easily remember, you can't. So for me, I just thought about it again as when I was going through all this, I'm like, I should know the answer to this question. Why can't I remember? But it was because I was literally going through a stressful situation that I could not think about the answers. So when I built this, the Legacy Keeper out, I thought about that in mind for people to understand that it may seem trivial now, but trust me, when you need these answers, you need it all in one concise place. Scrambling, saying, well, I think her such and such is there, or I think is there. It's too much time wasted. We need the answers today, right now, because someone is probably asking us for this information and we're supposed to report it back. So that was the idea of it. I'm actually traveling, so this is not my normal background, and I literally am here in Houston as we speak, headed back after this. But I met a young lady here who had a 26-year-old niece who just recently passed away. 26 years old. Her mother had already passed years before, so she was taking care of her niece. And the niece had a sister, and then that's it. The 26-year-old never wrote anything down. Nothing. She didn't even have beneficiaries on the account. The sister is angry because she was like, we talked all the time. I thought I would at least have been a beneficiary on the account. Guess what? They can't even access the money in the account. They can't even do anything. They were tied. Hands were tied as it relates to her estate. She told me while I was here that she just received a $10,000 check made out to the deceased niece's estate. Guess what that means? Nothing.
They can't do anything.
Can't do anything with it. Now just imagine $10,000 right now for this family who's buried her and all the other different things, moving her from apartments, whatever the things they had to do. It's a paper check that basically it becomes nothing. Because by the time you go through probate and go through all that, the face value of that check will no longer be $10,000. And they have other money, but I'm just using that as the extreme. But that is what we're doing when we don't have these conversations, when we think that because we talk about it today, no matter how old you are or young you are, you should have this conversation because it's super vital with not just you, but the people that you leave behind and the people that have to care for your personal affairs as a result of that.
And I'll tell you, I mean, in this, what I like about the journal, or I could call it a workbook, because this could easily be a work in progress. Like, yes. Mm-hmm. In my mind, I'm thinking things change. Like, how often do you change your password? Is there a main password keeper? I mean, there's so much, because I'm like, Mark, we were having this conversation. I'm like, what's in your head and what's in my head is not written down.
That part.
And, I mean, and we have a bank account together. We have a couple that are separate, and he might have my login and password. But if you're not on the account, it makes it even harder. I don't care how good a friend you are with the banker.
Yep.
You have to have everything in writing. And here's what's hard is, especially whether you're a real estate agent or you're watching, you caught the replay. What's hard is we're like, well, Carrie, that's just not going to happen today. And we're, as a real estate agent or a broker agent, and as a broker owner, I want to generate leads. I want to build a business, but this right here is money in a book. Mm-hmm. Because even though, we have to leave things for our kids, they're going to benefit just by you using this. And I'm telling you, when you went live with Makita, I was like, oh, I'm buying it. And I have one. Like, I'm like, nope, I can't even not pay for it, because the value in the cost of getting this, here, let me put the link back up, it was worth every penny. And it came real quick. I don't know if you could do that today because you're not at home or back at, but it came really quick and it was packaged nicely. And this right here, some people just need to buy like 5 and give them as, let's say, Christmas in July.
Yes.
Like, to me, the value in giving this and just taking a moment. And my twin sister and I were talking about, because I need to clean my basement so I can finish, so we can renovate it. And we get overwhelmed with running a company and because I have my speaking business and I'm a broker owner and I have 32 real estate agents and a husband, right? Yeah. That's a conversation in itself. But we were saying she was reading a book on, decluttering, and he was like, he had a client that's 7 minutes a day. Yep. 7 minutes a day. Just sit down and add to your journal so you can leave the information and a legacy for the person that's going to manage it. In addition to the fact that one day, Brandee, you're probably going to have to interview an attorney because somebody needs a will. You might have to go back to school.
A couple things. Let me start here. What you said about being a real estate agent. Let's think about it. We are now helping people make one of the most important, if not the most important decision in their life, right? And we do all of these things, and these houses are super expensive, and this is a dream for most people. But one of the things I've leveraged with this journal is that not only am I concerned about this house for now, but 9 times out of 10, you have children, right? We didn't go through this whole process, whether it was an easy process where we had to work on credit, where we had to, stop spending. We had to talk about saving. We had to just turn off all the IG and the filters and don't worry who's getting flown out everywhere, just to go and do all this. And then all of that hard work. And it's not even a discussion where you're covering your family. And most of them say, you're right. I never thought about that. And if you're thinking about how you can be different from most agents, this is one way, because now you're not just building a person for just one time. You're trying to ensure that I am so invested in you as a person that I'm also invested in you, making sure that your children or whoever, your grandchildren or whomever that may be, has also access to this house. And if you all want to sell it, if you all decide to use it as an investment property or whatever that may look like, I'm invested in you. So that's a different way to look at this as well.
Yeah, I like that. Many times, first of all, this is what, in addition to that, I heard that this is kind of a nice gift to give your client when they close.
You can still do all the other stuff, but this is a nice thing because it's different, right?
It's different. So before we wrap up, because people, what we forget is, even as a broker owner, that this might be a great conversation with your office.
Yeah.
So you can actually have Brandee come in to talk. First of all, she's not just she didn't just write the journal. She's a real estate agent, been in the business 12 years, and she is buying land to develop on. So she's just not in the business. She's working the business, and she's a broker owner. But she created this because of something that happened in her family. She, she had to hunt for information. Right. So, follow her. I did put her Instagram here on the stream. So My COINZ Journal. Mm-hmm. You can also, you also have an account on Instagram as Brandee, right?
Correct. I do. I have an Instagram. My realtor Instagram is REALTOR Brandee _
I think I'm going to find it and I'm going to add it too. I think I just saw it.
And you can follow me there. And I think what I did is not just think about it from just, I thought about it from just also being a broker. I have investments, right? And we didn't even touch on that. But if you have rental property, if you have any other streams of income that your family relies on, that needs to be documented. To Carrie's point, I do have a small business edition that will be coming out very soon. I did want to make sure that people understand the personal finance side of this, but the small business edition is already created as well. And it will help us as business owners, right? We are licensed agents with a business that our family depends on us. But at the same time, we need to be able to get what's in our head out and written down so that the people who have to run after us to be able to make sure that everything that we have is protected, they know how to do it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the business one, because I was like, Mark, First of all, I was like, I have a couple agents working on in Illinois. We're brokers and managing brokers. I have a couple of agents working on that. And I have my oldest who's licensed. I'm like, you need to go back to school to become the managing broker, because if anything happened,
Yes.
at least you can close the company. At least you could pay
Yes.
people out and close the company. So it's bigger than
Yes.
just our personal lives. It's
Correct.
what else are we working on?
Yes.
So even as a speaker, I have an online platform, but who manages that in the event?
Correct.
So there's so much to this. So let me challenge all of you, and then I'd like you to give some final thoughts. I would challenge all of you, go invest. At least invest, because whether you have kids or no kids, or your parents are getting older and they haven't done this, it is a hard conversation.
It is.
One of the agents that used to work with me, their family has a monthly Zoom meeting. I'm like, we need to do this. In addition to, we need to go on a vacation. Another one of my agents, every year they shut their restaurant down and they go on a family trip. I'm like,
Yes.
these are some of the things that we can talk about, even though you don't want to talk about it. It's sad. You get emotional, but once it's written and it's down, I can only imagine the relief.
It's so much better. I will say, my husband and I, we did not do all this obviously prior to this occurring, but now that it's done, we have everything in the trust. We have everything written down. We've gone through these courses. Of course, I had to teach the class, but the point is now it's done. And so the relief, to your point, is this is not something I think about. It's, I am a planner, and I think the difference with what this COINZ Legacy Keeper does that most people have to think about is, if I was to say, Carrie, I know you have another event, it's already planned for you, right? You know the date, you know the time, you know what time you got to be there. We know July 4th is approaching. People are making plans. The difference with the plans that is that you know the date and the time and how to prepare. What I'm asking you to do is to shift from what the date and time that you don't know into making sure that everything that you would have put in the details for any other event, whether it was hair, get my nails done, get the kids ready, let's, purchase tickets for flights. I'm asking you to shift that same energy into all of those things that you know about into an unknown event. But more importantly, I'm asking you to do that for your legacy. So you create conversations, or creating legacy through conversations by conversing. We are a world has generated a lot of text messaging and all of these things, but we can't learn what these things that's in my mind and what I've worked so hard for unless we are talking.
Thank you for that. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for watching. If you are listening to the replay, type your questions in the chat. I will make sure Brandee gets those questions. Take advantage of her legacy journal. I did. It was worth the investment. Mark and I, this was on our list of to-dos anyway. So take advantage of the journal. Follow Brandee on either her COINZ journal on Instagram, or you can actually follow her at REALTOR Brandee _handled. But please, 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 at least invest. It is worth every single penny.
Thank you.
So thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Carrie, for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Sue, so much. Oh, I appreciate you.
All right, let me see. There's always a way to end this stuff, so I figured I might as well do it well. So don't disappear on me, Brandee.
Okay.